Hi Year 11 and welcome to English in 10. Today we are talking about the question, explore the theme of outsiders in A Christmas Carol. As always, I will go through a series of different quotations that you might want to explore in response to this question and then end with a task for you to go away and do as part of your active revision. Okay, let's have a look at this question. So, outsiders, this meaning people who do not fit in with society. It could be through their own intent, so they may perhaps behave in certain manners. It could be perhaps something that's happened to them. It could be perhaps the family they've been born into. It could be perhaps a disability they've been born with. It could be maybe perhaps in terms of social attitude as well, so their financial, their attractiveness, their job security. Let's have a look though, particularly at Scrooge and his role as an outsider in this text. So the first thing I would suggest that you look at is Scrooge as a child, because from a very early age he is an outsider, both in his own family. We know this from the fact that he spends every Christmas holiday at school rather than going home to his family, whereas little Fan, his sister, she's kept at home, so she's accepted by the family, whereas he is rejected. But also we're told this, a solitary child neglected by his friends. So not only is he neglected by his own family, his father in particular, he's also neglected particularly by his friendships, which does show you that actually he's not only an outsider in his own family, but also in his friendship group amongst his peers. So this is quite a humiliating experience for him, I can imagine. The fact that he's not even considered by his friends, they can neglect him, they don't even think about him. He doesn't fit in, and we don't really know why. What reason it is that he doesn't fit in, whether it is his financial status, his intelligence, his character. We never really know why, but we just know for some reason he is not wanted or welcomed. Of course, this then tells you that perhaps this very much marked him for the rest of his life, that he learned not to rely upon anybody else. We know that Marley is his only friend as an adult, and Marley died years before the text itself started, 7 years hence, so it's 7 years previous. So we know that in 7 years he didn't make another friendship. So this is definitely a man who relies upon himself. He doesn't rely on friendships, he doesn't rely on family members, that his isolation was very much from an unwelcome childhood, but actually as an adult he encouraged his own outsider status rather than perhaps try to rely on people only to be let down by them. Okay, our next quotation is this, him being a moral outsider. Now, in Stave 2, we learn from his interaction with Belle that their relationship broke down because he worshipped a golden idol. She said she was replaced by another one. Now, thinking about golden idol, as you know, she's referring to money. But let's think also about the contextual information here. Now, this is a Christian society. Now, part of the Christian beliefs were that the Christian foundation and faith was founded on the 10 commandments. One being, do not worship false idols. Very key thing here. Now, Dickens himself was a very, very strong Christian in terms of his faith. He followed his faith very adamantly, and he was very much embraced it. In fact, you could definitely call this didactic book a religious didactic book, in terms of he's setting down moral behaviours, and one being don't worship false idols, just like the Ten Commandments tells us. The fact that Scrooge worships a false idol immediately sets him as being anti-Christian and an outsider to the moral foundation of the Victorian period at that point. Secondly, we know this is a sacrifice of his own romantic relationship for money, so he sacrifices it, he lets it go. So once again, we have got a bit of a choice here by Scrooge. He allows this outsider status to continue by not getting married, not having a family, once again marking him as different from other men around him. Think Fred gets married. We know that Bob Cratchit is married. Scrooge is odd. He's different for his single status. And we know this continues well into his adulthood, his fixation with money, that actually he is almost scarily terrified of becoming poor or ending up in a workhouse. Okay, our next one is this, Scrooge compared to Fred. As you know, Fred is a foil for Scrooge, and Scrooge himself ends up being like Fred by the end of the text, as you well know. I want to have a look at these very short quotations. When in Stave number 1, when Fred is inviting Scrooge to dinner, he just replies this very bah phrase, which is a very animalistic response here. It very much dehumanises Scrooge once again. It's not even talking to Fred using human language. Also, it definitely shows his misanthropic attitude towards mankind, the dislike he has for mankind. Well, we compare that to Fred's ha that we hear particularly in Stave Number 4, in which we see him having fun with his family. Stage 3, I beg your pardon. Having fun with his family and friends. The hash shows his ability to have fun, whilst the Scrooge is very much always alone and that isolation. Furthermore, the laughing, the ha, we see that with the young Cratchits, who are all laughing together, and Belle and her husband also laughing with her family when they're all having fun. So you've got this, not only see the antithesis of Fred in the foil, you've got that real sense that Scrooge doesn't even act like a human compared to the rest of the other characters in the text. Now, they all have fun away from him. They're all laughing and joking away from Scrooge. He's the one that's bringing that kind of negative coldness and very sort of odd behaviours to what he's doing. Okay, and my last quotation for you to look at is this: weather as a device. So in stage number 1, we're told that no warmth could warm him. There's a lot of quotations that talk about the coldness of him. We know that he's a very much cold character, both literally and figuratively. Now, Dickens definitely uses the weather and temperature as a vehicle to show his transformation, because by the end, in stage number 5, we're told he has a delighted smile. We have that thawing of his cold character, that actually, he's a real sort of positive person by the end. He begins with a very sort of parsimonious attitude, his obsession with money, but by the end of it, we see his sort of spending of money, his buying of things, his delight, his happiness, his joy, his warmth by the end of the novella. And, the fact that he has, at the beginning of the text, he can't even be warmed by any kind of warmth, once again highlights that dehumanization here, that he's not really even human-like, which we do also see in stage number 2 with the child with a tiny fire, and he doesn't ever seem to need any warmth. He's a man that's lived into quite an old age and yet doesn't need warmth. That once again marks him as being different or unusual perhaps to the other people around him, once again highlighting that outsider depiction, you could call, and talking about him. Okay, right, so your task now, year 11. Remember, revision is active. Don't just listen to videos and think, I'm done. You need to go and do something. So I'm going to say 30 to 40 minutes. I would like you now to go and explore this question. Explore the theme of outsiders in the play. So write a response to that, thinking about the following criteria. What is the effect of this language that he uses? What is Dickens trying to convey? What kind of tone is he trying to create? Think about the message. This is a didactic book. So what's he trying to teach us? What is the point of this? Why have an outsider as your protagonist? You could call him the antagonist at the beginning of the novella. Why does he then become the protagonist, who actually turns from the outsider into very much the accepted person? Think about a range of interpretations. Don't just tell me he's an outsider and then give me one reason. Try to explore different reasons that make him an outsider. So don't try and have maybe 2 interpretations per paragraph to really show a wealth or depth of interpretation. And don't forget the context. Think about how the Victorian era very much informs this book and the reading of this book, importantly so. What do we really need to be aware of when we're reading this text? Okay, so you've got between 30 and 40 minutes now to go away and write